Hello everyone, welcome back to Looney Bin. My name is Looney, and today I want to talk to you about an interview. Now, this interview isn't new. It isn't old either. I'm not talking like 10 years old or anything like that. I think it's been like 2 years now since this interview was released, but it's a very interesting interview to talk about, specifically when we discuss anything to do with One Piece shipping, One Piece romance, which I do like making videos of. And this is an interview that happened between two very famous manga authors that have been both, working on their works about almost the same exact time period. And it's fascinating, it's so amazing to see two manga authors, competing against side by side with each other for about the same amount of time. And the two manga authors we're discussing that were involved in this interview is Gosho Aoyama, who is the mangaka author of Detective Conan that is serialized in Weekly Shonen Sunday, and Eiichiro Oda, who created a little, story called One Piece that is serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. So, what exactly am I going to discuss regarding this interview? Well, this interview is very specific because there is mention of something to do with romance, and it kind of gives you a insight to how Oda now currently feels about romance in some form or way. And it's a very specific thing to discuss, and I will read, what happened in that interview. I will read exactly what was said between these two very, very beloved and very famous manga authors. So, before we get into the interview, just want to say that it is very much still not guaranteed that One Piece will end in some sort of romance or any ship will become canon. However, I do believe that there is still a very strong possibility Oda might decide on something in regards to that. This interview doesn't necessarily prove or, give a stronger piece of evidence to suggest that such a thing will happen at the end, but it does give us an insight on Oda's mind about romance, where a lot of people talk about how Oda doesn't want romance, or always has said that none of the Strides are going to be involved in any sort of romantic relationship. They go back to an interview from 2007 or an SBS. While I could discuss those things, I think most people already have decided depending on who you are, if you're an anti-shipper or a shipper against, a certain other ship, you have already decided, your stance on, what Oda believes or thinks in romance. But I do want to discuss this interview specifically because it gives you, like I said, a perfect look in to how Oda views romance currently, at this moment, or the most recent, time that he has discussed romance in One Piece. So let us take a look at this very small section of the interview, and we will discuss it right after we read through it. So this is a part of the interview. This is you got to scroll a little bit, halfway through this document, through this interview, to really get to this part. There are two times when there are questions asked and that relate to romance in general. So that's where we're going to start off, and I'm going to go read through it before we discuss and digest exactly what is being said by Oda here. So let us begin with a phrase: love, comedy, friendship, and character charm, which essentially just essentially means that's what this part of the interview is going to be about. So he says, what do you think is the manga's power? Oda: I think the most important feature of a manga is for it to be a tool to make friends. I know it's a pretty common topic, but in fact I did make many friends when I was a child through it. Aoyama responds, I hope Detective Conan helps people with their love relationships. That way readers can fall in love like the characters from the series. But, well, those mostly end up as a murder love comedies. It's all a dream world, Oda, responds, so I always strive to draw beautiful scenes. Alright, so next comes up the next topic of conversation. Speaking of love comedies, Aoyama-sensei previously said that rom-coms, adventure, and friendship are the three elements of shonen manga hits, and it's clear Aoyama-sensei is good at love comedy and adventure, and Oda-sensei is good at adventure and friendship. Aoyama, love comedies? You haven't drawn anything like that. You haven't drawn anything like that, right, Oda-kun? Oda, I have it. There's a tradition in Jump that states love comedies are love comedies, battles are battles. They're two separate genres and totally different works. Aoyama, oh, well, I guess love comedy developments while battling are not for Jump. Oda, I haven't read many of those either, but Detective Conan integrates those elements properly. I think you make a really good use of those settings. Aoyama, well, I do enjoy love comedies, but I guess you're not really interested in them. Oda-kun. Oda, I'm not confident I could draw those. It's a bit embarrassing. Aoyama, on the other hand, friendship is a tough theme for me. It's not impossible for me to draw, but I don't really come up with stuff I think, oh, this is cool. I think the only characters I can picture that topic on are the Police Academy members. Oda then responds, Detective Conan actually has a lot of romantic relationships. It's full of bi-directional feelings. But I also know that if I draw romance, some of my fans leave. I think it's fine with their one-sided feelings, but if it goes both ways, both characters lose fans. Aoyama, well, I won't leave. Haha. Neither would I. Just to point it, just to give you my, personal belief on that. But seriously? Oda, answers, shocked, essentially. Aoyama, on the contrary, I think it's exciting. Most of my characters have couples. It's quite rare to find one without a partner. Oda, people seem so supportive of couples. That's something I didn't really read when I was a kid. During the old days of Jump, there were mangaka that wouldn't even draw a woman. Tell me about it. That's why I'm one of those sent submissions with female. That's why I'm one of those that sent submissions with female characters. I did want to draw a strong woman, and I think characters like Nami were quite rare back in those days. And yes, Nami did. Sorry, I'm just going on a little tangent, but Nami did get third place in the worldwide popularity poll. Take that. Sorry, I'm still very happy about that. But essentially, that is the part of the interview that I wanted to discuss and go over with you guys. And essentially, it does give you sort of an insight on Oda and how he just views romance and his current state of like how he, thinks of it. Will it really lead to something, romantic or shipping wise in the near future for those who ship in One Piece? So I do believe, and I believe that this is something that Oda has always stated before, and not even through shipping, that he has some sort of confidence issues. Not that they're anything serious, like, he's not confident in his manga, he's not confident in his writing or anything like that. He doesn't have a lot of confidence in certain aspects of writing. Like he mentions here, he doesn't have that kind of confidence when it comes to writing romance, right? He's not that confident in writing romantic relationships. And it comes from what he says here, this ideology in Shonen Jump that, battle mangas are for battle and romance mangas or romantic comedies are for romantic comedy mangas. And while that is true, because there's a lot of romantic comedies in Weekly Shonen Jump and Weekly Shonen Sunday, I believe that that's not necessarily the case. I think you can have both. You don't have to focus a lot on either one of those, right? Or focus too much on one of those, but you could add certain things like that with very subtle takes. It doesn't mean that it's forbidden. It doesn't mean that you can't do it, right? But part of the reason why he doesn't really like writing romantic relationships at all, except for stuff that's one-sided, is because he has a fear of losing fans. He has a fear of losing fans of certain characters, right? And I think that comes from just the idea that, if this character, the only thing this character, cares about or the main focus on is, the romantic relationship he would have or she would have with another character. And to him, I guess it feels that because of that, the character will suffer because now the character's all about their feelings over that other character, which is a common thing in a lot of Shonen Jump series when it comes to writing female characters, because there's a lot of times, specifically in stuff I don't want to put it all on Naruto, for example, but part of Sakura's character is her crush on Sasuke, and it kind of a lot of people don't necessarily find that appealing for her as a character. Could it be something that Oda has noticed and decided not to do that? I don't know, right? I really don't know. For the most part in Naruto, it's mostly one-sided until the end, but I think that's what he fears, that because Sakura has a lot of focus on trying to find Sasuke and trying to find some sort of her feelings for Sasuke, it causes fans out there to kind of feel oh, well, that's all she is, that the only thing she cares about, is these romantic feelings towards Sasuke. She's not helpful in any other way despite being a medic, right? I don't want to go too much on a tangent on that, right? But that's, I think, something that Oda probably feels is the case. And I feel that that's really, there are a lot of fans who don't like romance in general, right? And I think that fear or that confidence, the lack of confidence that he has to depict romantic moments, between two characters, it's somewhat, understandable that that's how he feels because, like you said, he didn't really experience that growing up with manga, with such stuff like Dragon Ball, you know. But I think that times have changed and a lot more people are more accepting for romance. And I think maybe he slightly sees that a little bit, but he still doesn't have the confidence in writing those type of things. He's perfectly fine with writing like one-sided relationships, but at the same time, he feels like he's worried. He's very worried, and he's been worried about this for a long time, even when Gear 5 was being first introduced. Like, he was afraid of like losing fans because people didn't like, the decisions he had made for his story, such as Gear 5. But then with Gear 5, he mentions that at the, he like all of a sudden he just feels like, oh, wait a minute, why am I worried about, fans' opinions? Granted, fans' opinions are, something that you should slightly care about, but you don't have to like think or like be too worried about certain fans leaving the series. Fans will still complain, will still criticize, but a lot of the times fans will still stick with the story. Because at the end of the day, like myself, I didn't personally like the Naruto ending or the Bleach ending, but I still stuck with the series until the end. Because I've been reading them for so long, I want to see how it ended, right? Critique and criticism perfectly fine. And the fear that Oda probably had for like losing fans, right? I think he's slowly getting out of it because of what happened with the Gear 5 incident, right? Where he literally was just like, oh, well, I'm just going to draw the manga however I want now, and if I lose fans, then so be it. And that is the right mentality to have. Now, could that be applied to what he says here in this interview about, lack of confidence in writing romantic relationships? It is possible. It is possible that it could wind up being the same thing. Oda has a very unique style of writing. Like, part of the interview that I was going through here states that, a lot of the great themes that he has, essentially has great writing in is the theme of friendship. And he has showcased that. Right? I know we talk about shipping here on this channel, and I talk a lot about shipping in general during my One Piece conversations, that, that maybe there might be something there. But I've also mentioned time and time again that Oda's writing is so good because he allows himself the opportunity to literally choose a path that he wants to take later on with his story. Like I said, and I'm going to repeat it again like I've been saying in a bunch of other videos I've done, his writing definitely could be seen as just friends helping friends. There's no question about it. That's one of his strengths. It's been mentioned by Aoyama that that's his strength. Well, Aoyama has more strength in essentially, the romantic couples and stuff like that, right? And he struggles more with friendship. But with Oda, it's the opposite direction, right? But here's the thing. Oda's writing in terms of friendships can be also seen as romantic, right? Can definitely well be seen like that. It's really depending on the person's interpretation. And he never really, like, Oda never really had a problem with shippers. He has never mentioned anything about, you should stop shipping this, you should stop shipping at all in general. He never has a problem with it. Because he understands, and this is something he learned from Akira Toriyama, that, your story is marketable, right? Your story has a market. You have to think your story as some sort of merchandise, as like a product. And people will view that product many different ways, and you shouldn't, prevent them from seeing it that way. Which is why also, simply, there's a lot of people who have these weird takes about One Piece that just, is insane. Some people will say that shipping, or doing anything with shipping in One Piece is also clearly insane, right? But that's the thing. Oda doesn't really mind people shipping. So it's very interesting to see that he just has a lack of confidence in trying to portray that romantic comedy. He believes that he will lose fans if he does try to portray, mutual romantic relationship between characters in his story. Yet, and this is like one of the big things that he has shown over specifically in post time skip, is that he has constantly shown romance in some way. Not necessarily with the Straw Hats, unless you interpret it in that way, but all these other characters like Oden Toki, Kinemon and Sudo, Ginny and Kuma. you see romance being depicted more and more in the story. Now, I don't believe that at the time that he was creating these romance between Oda and Toki, and stuff like that, he was doing it, because he felt that he was confident in the way he was writing. It's his writing in general. That's why it feels like his lack of confidence is just from the fear of losing fans, because he can write romance, right? He believes that romance in his stories and the way he writes it is just not good enough, but the fact is it's really good, right? Look at the romance for those characters. Don't even look at the ships with the Straw Hat ships, but look at the romances and the relationships that Kumagini had. Look at the relationship that Oden Toki had. A lot of these relationships are really well written. So he knows how to write good romance. He knows. He just doesn't have the confidence. And that's why I wanted to bring up this interview, because of that. His lack of confidence is the reason why you don't necessarily see romance between the Straw Hats. Now again, this could literally just be because he wants to view the Straw Hats as merely a group of friends going into this journey together, and his main goal is to allow people to connect with them and make friends. One Piece fans make friends with other One Piece fans, that kind of thing. That's what he wanted to portray. But that does not mean at all that he's not aware of shipping. He knows it exists. He's been asked this several times. I'm sure he's gotten emails about shipping in general to to answer in SBS, but he doesn't. He doesn't answer them because I think he understands that if he gives some sort of answer, right, people will go apeshit, and he doesn't want to do that. Not until he has that confidence and he doesn't have that worry that he will lose fans, or the characters will lose fans. And that's the main thing. That's part of the reason why he doesn't necessarily try very hard to showcase romance extremely visibly, giving it to you right in your face. He doesn't do it because he understands that people will be upset. Now, I'm one of those people who believe that he shouldn't worry too much about that, because if a shipper ends up leaving One Piece because their ship doesn't become canon, it sucks. It's a shame, right, that something like that would make them leave, but it happens. I'm not going to judge people for doing that. I'm not going to tell them that they're wrong for doing that, because everyone interprets a series differently. But at the same time, he shouldn't worry about that, because at the end of the day, he's not going to please everybody in the story. He's not. That's just what authors eventually have to figure out, and find out that someone out there is not going to like your story. Someone out there is going to critique your story. Some critiques may be, ridiculous, right? But people will critique it, and some people will just not like it. But you should cherish the ones who do, right? And even if you feel like, the fans will leave because of the decision you make, that's fine. Because there will be other fans who will like it, who will love it, who probably wouldn't even mind it. If he chose to do some sort of, romantic relationship with any of the Straw Hats, guess what? There will be people who will be fine with it, right? There will be people who will be fine with it. There will be people who will be upset about it, sure, but people will still be fine with it. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people stick with One Piece because of the story, of the adventure of these characters. That's what they really care about. And, in this interview, he's just afraid of losing fans of these characters. And I think, while it is justifiable, I do think that maybe he's slowly getting out of it because of the whole Gear 5 incident, where he talked about, literally, that, yes, he might lose fans, but he's going to draw the manga however he wants. And that is the correct mentality to have. It is your story. Draw it, write it the way you want to. If people don't like it, they will not like it. And there's some people who just won't like it in general because, they just want to argue or just dislike something because I don't know why, right? They have their reasons. But that's the point. It's okay to be afraid of losing fans, because at the end of the day, you might not even make a shipping choice, right? You might make a choice that's something else, and you will lose fans from watching your series, and that is okay, because at the end of the day, there will be people who love your series regardless of the choices you make. Now, they will criticize it, but that doesn't mean that they will ultimately just leave. So I think that's part of how I think he should take this. And just this interview just showcases just like where his mindset is in terms of romance, couples, and you know, something like that. And it just comes from a lack of confidence in not only his writing in terms of that specifically, not like in general, but like specifically romantic, moments. But he has shown romance, really well written romance in a lot of the characters he has, depicted them in that light. So I think he can do it. And I've said, and I don't know if I mentioned the last part of it, but like his writing is so good that it can be viewed as friendship, but it can also be viewed romantic if he decides to go that way. He has the option of going that way, and that's why his writing is really good. And I think that, aside from the lack of confidence, he really is good at writing romantic comedy, honestly. He really is, right? And that would explain why he doesn't really have like ships, or really has like characters that like Hancock has one-sided love with Luffy, which he confirmed later on in SBS, right? Or Sanji has like love for all the other females in the world, Nami, Robin, Pudding, right? But it's still one-sided, except in the case of Pudding, where it actually switches once Pudding develops romantic feelings for Sanji, and that all of a sudden Pudding has those romantic feelings and Sanji is like a little bit oblivious to it, right? Which is like a cool little gag in terms of like how that is essentially the opposite way that it worked, right? Where it you know what I'm saying, right? I don't want to get too far into it, but essentially yes, I think Oda currently right now definitely has maybe romance in the back of his mind. He doesn't want to like propose it or show it to a very high degree like maybe some other shonen series write it, right? But at the end of the day, he probably does have it in the back of his mind, regardless of whatever the ship he chooses or whatever ship you prefer. I think at this point, with this interview and just how he felt about Gear 5 and how like he just wants to now draw whatever he wants, without worrying about how people take it, I think that is a good sign if you are a shipper in One Piece, right? Because it showcases that he has thought about it, and his mind has changed over the years from that interview that he had back in like 2005, 2007, right? Where he talked about Nami's if Nami was interested in anyone, and like he said, well, I don't think there will be anything depicted. I don't think isn't a no. It just means that he just wasn't sure at the time, and this was back in 2007. Now, could he be thinking about it now? There is romance in One Piece, so he has thought about it. The fact that he has inserted romance into One Piece with other characters, not necessarily the Strides, means that he has thought about it, and that maybe he might be leaning towards that. This isn't a something to for only Lunami fans, but this is just for anyone who ships any of the Strides, that there could be a possible chance that Oda has thought about it and maybe switching up to like at least depicting it in some form or way, and that is a good thing if you are a One Piece shipper. And that's what I wanted to talk about. That's what I wanted to say regarding this interview, and I think that Oda right now currently definitely doesn't have the same mindset he did when he was younger. He got married, he has kids now, he knows romance, he's seen romance, he's even been watching like this love drama. He made like an interview, and he even approved a side story manga created by like someone else, where he reads it, where he apparently read it weekly or whenever a new chapter released, about One Piece in love, a One Piece love story where the main characters are in a slice of life in Japan type of manga story where the characters are named both Luffy and Nami, and they literally are crushing on each other in that story. And apparently he enjoys it and read it whenever it was being published. So again, he does like romance, he doesn't mind romance. At the end of the day, it's all about just whether or not he has the confidence to do so. So we'll see what happens. I think this is a great interview. You should definitely check it out. I'll post a link to this interview down in the comments below. If you want to join my Discord, you're more than welcome to. The Discord link is down there as well. We could talk more about shipping, One Piece in general, right? And just subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of my shipping takes, more just shipping videos. And thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to me rant, essentially. But like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys next time, and have a fantastic rest of your day. So thank you so much, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.